How about them tops, son?
All day, SEC boys. SEC, they supposed to be SEC. Crazy all day, baby.
You're listening to the Red Out Podcast.
Welcome in to another Red Out Podcast. My name is Devin, and I've been kind of screwing that up here lately. I've been messing with my audio effects, and it's screwed up my intro. But anyway, welcome into another Red Out Podcast. We are talking this week about some depressing stuff, kind of like Jared alluded to last week. But we're going to be upbeat about it. Western's going to the NIT. And as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the episode. And rate us on all the major platforms. We appreciate your support. Welcome in, Jared.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going good. So as I just was telling our listeners, you alluded to the depression that we could possibly be talking about, and we're here.
Yeah, I don't know why I expected anything different.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of how the way Western goes.
Yeah, at least the past few seasons.
Yes. So winners and losers. I guess one of my first winner or losers is actually kind of an obscure note. Out of the, I think they said they had 60 referees in the Conference USA tournament. One of them tested positive for COVID thus far that I heard on the news yesterday. So the funny thing with it is the way the NCAA is doing the tournament this year. Once you're checked into the hotel, you cannot leave the hotel for anything except for, I guess, practice for the teams and when there is an event. From what I heard. So the one of the refs, their rooms of 6 refs, I think it was, their rooms were not ready. They went out to eat with this individual, which they got the okay to do because he was another ref, and they went out to eat while they were waiting for their rooms to be done. And when they came back, they were like, "Oh, Bill here tested positive, so all y'all got to go home." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, how would you like to be those other guys who did not test positive, but that kind of got looped in with the rest of them?" Sorry guys, but you're going to be our losers as far as I'm concerned this week. Jared, do you have anything?
I mean, other than the obvious, I mean, a loser I would say is the Dolphins because Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to the Redskins, which will probably be like his 30th out of the 32 NFL teams that he'll be playing for in his career. But, I mean, he did so great. I think he was a really good mentor to Tua. But they got rid of Fitzpatrick and then brought in Jacoby Brissett. And I think that the Dolphins are going to be sticking with Tua, which I really hope they do. I think that's a good decision moving forward. Once maybe we get an actual running back, or maybe a wide receiver or two, and just kind of have a solid offensive line for him, I think he'll be really good in his sophomore year.
I think Ryan Fitzpatrick is the quote-unquote Sean Beam of the NFL. Now, let me clarify. Like, he doesn't really stick with a team, and the reason I call him the Sean Bean is because, like in Sean Bean films, he's always like dying in the movie. Sometimes he's the mentor, so like he's kind of like mentored Tua, and he's like, "You got it from here, guy," and he just walks off into the sunset, and he goes and plays for God knows who, but
does not simply walk into the NFL.
Exactly. Okay. So another thing, since you're talking NFL contracts, did you hear the Saints kind of crazy contract they did with their quarterback?
Well, was it with Jameis or was it with the other dude from BYU?
I think it was the other dude. Is his name Hill?
Taysom
Okay.
Hill.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he got okay. So obviously, crazy thing is
Drew Brees is retiring.
Drew Brees is retiring. He's going to be an analyst, from what I've heard. And then so another thing is with this Hill guy's contract, He's getting 140 million. I don't know over how many years. I think it's like 4 years or something. Let me try and Google this real quick. But he's supposed to get like 140 million, but like only like 7 or 8 of it's guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
So basically the Saints could just cut the contract at any point. And they could be like, nah, we can void it. So the reason, from what I've heard, the reason they did this was so they could free up $7 million in their contract, in their cap salary, which is crazy to me.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, he was under a 1 year for 16.3 mil with 16 mil guaranteed and an 8 mil sign-in bonus. He gets okay, so he's got 12 million guaranteed.
Okay, that's not as bad.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course I'd take $1 million any day of the week. You pay me $1 million a year.
I could live off of that.
Okay, so every year from 22 to 25, the contract is voidable. So basically, he's got a $12 million, which he's taking a $4 million cut in pay for this year, and he's got an extra signing bonus of 9.6. So he gets a little bit extra now, but it's like, really? So Mr. Hilltopper has sent us the pictures in Texas. I hope these are appropriate, Mr. Hilltopper. Don't want any dirty pictures on here, buddy.
Just cursed images from the title game, probably.
Yeah. I think we should burn the pictures of the court.
Just burn all of it.
And the scoreboard pictures too. Like all the scoreboard.
Like we always, like on our DVR, we always record the ball games whenever Western plays on TV, just in case we ever want to rewatch it. And after the game, my mom was going through stuff, and she's like, "Do you want me to keep this game?" And I was like, "Destroy all of the evidence that you can find of this game ever occurring, please."
I agree. So I do have a question for Mr. Hilltopper. Why is there a picture of a random Ready sports drink? Like, is this for an ad?
Could be.
It's pretty random and it's funny. But hey, I love the pictures. It looks great, buddy. Everything looks great except for the way the tournament turned out for us, but that you can't help that.
Yeah, he did get to photobomb MTSU too, so I mean, he did have that as well.
Hey, that's pretty sweet. You can't beat that. Photobombing the Mutts.
Yeah,
and just start screaming out, "Back fat, back fat."
Yes.
Okay. The Ready was a promo-free drink. But anyway, I digress, as I always say. So obviously, we'll talk about the tournament here in a minute. Have you heard anything as far as the NCAA tournament is concerned? Anybody getting knocked out yet or anything?
No, every team that has been able to qualify for the NCAA tournament is good to play. And
Nice.
Tuesday was the deadline for that. So if somebody drops from now until championship, that's it. I mean, whoever they would be playing would advance just automatically. So we'll see.
So here's my question as far as the NIT. Let's say, I'm assuming North Texas got in. Let's say North Texas gets a COVID case and Western's already got the NIT bid. Can Western drop the NIT and go to the big dance? Or are we basically locked in now?
Well, we're already locked in now. I mean, it's
kinda
surpassed the time. Yeah, like Tuesday was the deadline. Like on Monday, if that would have happened, that would have been really interesting. But the thing is that it wasn't up to the conference. It was up to the certain teams that the selection committee had. So like the first 4 teams out of the NCAA tournament is like Louisville, St. Louis, and a couple other teams. Like they were the first ones to be call-ups if someone were to drop. So say Houston has to drop out to give their game in the tournament, then Louisville would replace them. And then if someone else had to drop, then whoever was second on the bubble would replace them and so on. So the only way we would have gotten in the tournament is like if 6 teams or 7 teams would have dropped out of the NCAA tournament before Tuesday. And of course, that's just kind of unrealistic to happen.
Yeah, I mean, actually, now after you said that, there are no, as far as I know, there are no big Kentucky teams in the tournament this year.
Just Morehead State, they're the only one.
Yeah, Morehead State made it. Western's out. Louisville's out.
See,
Kentucky's out. It's like, good
and when
God.
was the last time that's ever happened? That's got to be a first. That
I couldn't tell you.
Morehead State is the only representative of the state of Kentucky in the NCAA tournament.
I
See,
would be willing.
that's how you know this entire season is just crazy.
Well, see, here we go. So, if we could, we need to get some fans who are maybe not Murray State fans or Morehead State fans. Oh, it's Morehead, you said, right?
Yeah.
Ah, dang it. I was thinking Murray for some reason, and I was like, please, can we get that horse back? That awful Amazon horse.
Oh, yeah.
Walking up and down. But yeah, Morehead, yeah, that's definitely. I would say I would be willing to bet that was a first. It's got to be a first that Morehead is the only team to make it in the tournament.
Out of Kentucky, yeah, that's wild.
So anyway, baseball-wise, we're going to get Ross on here in a few minutes. He's trying to get his kids to bed, which, God help you, buddy. My daughter is still not converted over to springing forward time. So, like, she's not going to bed till like 10 or 11 o'clock at night. And it's taking everything I have to just go, go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep. Yeah. For those of you who are parents, obviously a parent did not invent daylight savings time. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, probably.
So anyway, Western's baseball team swept Bowling Green, the Falcons, right? Aren't they Falcons?
Yeah.
Brown Eagles, purple, peanut butter Eagles, whatever they are. They swept them this weekend. Beat them Friday 4-3. 4-1 on Saturday, and 17-16. What happened there?
I don't know.
Dang, dude. I thought that was a misprint. That's 17-16. That's usually not a baseball score. But anyway, let's see here. Soccer played Florida Atlantic, and they tied 1-1. Yeah, it's soccer. That's one thing that always kills me in like soccer and stuff is the tie. Like, yeah. I feel like we should break the tie. We should go into a shootout or a sudden death or something. Or
no sport should ever end in a tie, period. And that's why
I never liked the tie.
And that's why I like college football better than the NFL, just for that reason, that they can actually go into a tie. Just let them settle it. Even if they have to, I think college rules for overtime is exactly how you should settle it. I don't know why the NFL still allows ties.
Any pro team that wins the toss to go into overtime and defers is an idiot. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Because the way NFL kickers are, you cannot defer. You've got to take it if you can get it.
Yeah.
But yes, I 100% agree. I understand why the NFL does that, because they're ran by networks basically, and they've got to have enough time to get the next game going, and they can't have a 6-hour 24 overtimes, you know, for Jacksonville versus whoever, I mean, there's some place people would love to see that, but for the most part, I'm not going to want to watch 27 overtimes, but
I would. I mean, I was the one that I can't remember if I watched this live or not, or when it happened. I think it was UConn and Syracuse. It went into like 6 overtimes in basketball. Like, that was beautiful. Like, I wish that happened more in sports, just because, I mean, it's just so crazy.
As somebody who's played through overtimes, you're just exhausted, and like, you want to win, and you really want to be like, dude, aren't you tired? Talking to the other team, going, dude, just take it, slack off on this play. It's not a big deal. Just let us win.
On my NBA 2K, on my career mode, I had like this big center that's like Sabonis, and I had just a fun game where he was the only person that could score, but it was tied. Like, I already had like 100 points by the end of regulation, but the thing is that it went into like 4 overtimes. So there were some other people on the team I had to score, or else I would have lost. But I ended up winning in 4 overtimes. I think the final was like 150-147, and my guy had 127 points in that game. So I'll always remember that.
That's crazy. The funny thing is my little brother and I, when he was younger, we played NCAA college football, whatever. or maybe it was Madden NFL. And what we did was we were trying to see if you could score 200 points in a football game, in a regulation game. Well, if you do 15 minutes, then yeah, it's easy. But if you do like the 5 minutes that they have standard set up, it's not too bad. So yes, I think I ended up getting like 120 points. But the way we had to do it was every time like I kicked off to him, he would punt it back to me on the first down.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy stuff. So apparently Mr. Hilltopper is informing me that Oklahoma sent a kid home today who tested positive for COVID. Yeah.
Well, that's not the whole team, though.
Yeah, I kind of agree with him. Like, how did nobody else get exposed?
Yeah,
right.
That's true. We're a year into this pandemic. I don't think anybody really cares about the rules anymore, just because the vaccine is out and it's starting to get better. But hopefully by May, and at least by the next season in football and basketball, both, all of the players and coaching staff should be vaccinated, which will be fantastic. So we won't have to worry about this nonsense again. But it's still a weird time right now.
Now, see, my wife and I had this conversation the other day as far as not vaccination or anything, but let's just hypothetically say, I don't know who number one team in the nation is right now, but
Gonzaga.
Okay, if I'm Gonzaga, do you not like lock your players in rooms and just like push the food through the little slot in the door like in those jail movies? And then like they get vaccinated and they don't see anybody, and if they go out, they have to be in a bubble. You know, I mean, like I would be taking so many precautions with those guys. There is no way in God's green earth that I would let them get COVID. And they'd probably still get COVID.
The thing. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, though, is that they all have to take that sacrifice as a team and understand that, like, we're the number one team. We want to win a national championship. And the only way we're going to do that is if we just take care of ourselves and just isolate ourselves right now. Because, I mean, you can't take any chances. Heck, when I had COVID, I still don't know where I got it from. I mean, it's hard. Even when you do take all the precautions, I mean, stuff like that happens. So, I mean, it's so hard.
You probably got it from someone who held their phone up to the speaker.
Probably. To do their order. It was the person on the other line. I got it from them.
Yeah, exactly. But like, at least nowadays, like they're saying that the players can't even leave their rooms. Like at least nowadays, that like with the way the internet is and everything like that, like these guys can play, you know, Call of Duty or whatever they're going to play, and you know, actually have some interaction instead of just being completely confined. And you know, it's not like the old days where you talked on the phone to talk to somebody. Now you can text and FaceTime and, you know, do all that stuff to communicate with people. So even if they are locked up, they're not, you know, locked up. They actually have some kind of freedom to do stuff, I guess is what I'm
And honestly, like if I was a player on Gonzaga, I mean, if you asked me to sacrifice socializing with anybody that I knew for a month, if the outcome was winning a national championship, I would definitely do the national championship, because that's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You'll get to see your friends and family after the tournament's over. Just bite the bullet and isolate yourself so you can get that ring.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there was a stat I heard today, and it was pretty wild. Out of the like past 30 years, I think they said 24 of those years, a number one team has won the national title. And there was so many different little stats, and I was just like, what, really? I'll try and look that up.
Here's an interesting one for you, though, is that this year's tournament, this is the first time since 1967 not 67, 76, that Duke and Kentucky both missed the NCAA tournament. And another thing that was important with that year is that was also the last time that a team went undefeated. That was when Indiana won the national championship with 40-0 and didn't lose a single game. So I don't know. I mean, maybe Gonzaga has a chance of doing that this year. So I don't know.
If there's a number one team I could cheer for, it would probably be Gonzaga. I could cheer for them. That's kind of an underdog. Literally, because aren't they the Bulldogs?
Yeah.
Story. I could cheer for Gonzaga to win that. But talking sports, as far as Western's concerned, Baseball's done pretty good. I think they lost to Bellarmine yesterday, 7-3. So, and I think they've got a series against Valparaiso on Facebook. So if you want to watch a baseball game on Facebook, go for it. HSSN on Facebook. They'll have the series basically all weekend, except for Sunday's game, random. 5 o'clock Central on Friday, 1 o'clock Central on Saturday, and then 1 o'clock Central on Sunday. And it looks like volleyball's got the Mutts. They got on Sunday, they've got middle, and they've got middle on Saturday as well. So go support volleyball, and softball's got UAB, so I'm hoping they'll do well. And, of course, Western's in the NIT, and we play St. Mary's in like 2 hours from now. Less than that, about an hour and a half now as the podcast records. So
it's basically a toss-up right now, too, is what ESPN is predicting. I mean, it's like 50-50 almost.
Great.
And also, this can be sort of be a transition. Is one thing to talk about is that Carson Williams will not be playing anymore the rest of the season. He's actually going to be trying out for a pro day, so that's going to be interesting, like NFL pro day. And
NFL,
honestly, yeah, he's going to be trying to do what George Fant did: play basketball 4 years and then try to throw your hat into the ring for some football. But I think that's really smart for him because being a 6'5" forward or center in the NBA is, I mean, no one's going to take someone that small in the modern NBA era. So, I mean, either his only hope is being like a small forward or maybe playing overseas, somewhere like that. But he has the perfect build for someone that could be like a tight end, in my opinion. So I feel like that he could do that. But another question I have, too, if he's doing this, technically he could come back next year for basketball. But does that mean that he could come back and want to try to do football next year as well?
Yeah, I don't think so. I wouldn't think so. I don't know. I mean,
it's sort of like what Justin Johnson tried doing. Like, do you remember when Justin Johnson tried it too? Like, that seems to be the thing that happens with your star player that we have now at Western, is that they're like an undersized forward and they play really solid, and then they try to be a football player at the end of their career. Because, I mean, Fant did it, and he's making $13 million playing for the Jets. Justin Johnson tried it, but he never actually took the field with the team. And now Carson Williams, he's going to be trying it. But I don't know if he's going to play for us or just try to go straight to NFL and see if he can learn everything that quick. I don't know what his move is going to be, but I think it's really interesting.
My thing is, though, like, if Carson does that, like, I don't know if he can learn the playbook as quickly as, like the guy that's already playing there. So, like, I don't know if he would even start next year is my thing. Yeah, he would have the size at Western, I'm saying, at Western. He would have the size. I just don't know if he would be a contender to start. Now, if he comes back and tries
he would have to be, like, on the kickoffs like what Fant did, because Fant never really played that much, and he was a tight end too, technically. Yeah. And he only did mostly special team stuff, but just the fact that he was playing football and he was getting those reps, that was enough for him to go from being an undrafted free agent to starting tackle for the Jets. So, I mean, you never know. I mean, as long as you put in that extra work, I mean, you can accomplish anything.
Now, could Mr. Hilltopper and I both want to know, can he come back and play football next year, though? Like,
that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I don't know.
What if he wants to come back? I mean, could he just transfer sports? Like, are you allowed to just say, I don't want to play basketball anymore, I want to go play football and not have a loss of the year or anything? Or I don't know. This is such a rare instance.
To my knowledge, I don't know with the dual sport, but to my knowledge, like, you have 4 years of varsity letter. So, like, with a redshirt year, which I don't know. I don't know. That's the thing that gets me, is it's like, if he's played 4 years with basketball and been on the team, and he may have not played the entire time. Let me see if I can find him.
Well, he was in Northern Kentucky and played 2 seasons, came here, sat out a year, and then he's played the past 2 seasons. So he would be a 6th-year guy if he were to come back to campus for anything next year.
Yeah. Well, he's a 6'5", 240-pound forward from Owenton, Kentucky, and honestly, if he went to the NFL, I would rather him play like like you said, maybe tight end or outside linebacker. He might be pretty good at there. I don't know.
He's got the
As far as
size.
his eligibility, I have no idea. That would be a great question.
Yeah, ask your cousin Todd that.
I will. I'll text him after a while and see what he says. So, Lady Tops are at home. Let's talk about North Texas. As much as I hate to talk about this. So, looks like North Texas kind of came out strong. Basically dominated the first half, finishing out the first half about, 34-23. And then Western basically battled back. And right towards the end, Western took the lead, and they had a complete opportunity there to finish the game. And they were leading 48-43 with 2:28 to go in a regulation, and they basically let North Texas come back. And it's just
honestly, did you actually watch the game?
No, I was at work.
Be glad.
So I missed it. Yeah.
Because honestly, let me tell you right now, I've seen some ugly basketball games in my life. I even remember when we played Mississippi Valley State in the first round of the tournament, 9 years ago, whatever year that was, when we had a losing record and we were in the Ncaa Tournament. I think both teams had over 20 turnovers, low scoring game. We came back from down 18 with less than 2 minutes to go, I think, and we still somehow ended up winning that game in front of Obama and the British Prime Minister, which that's still probably the wildest game I've ever seen. But the North Texas game is by far one of the dumbest games I've ever seen in my entire life. Because first of all, they come out and go on a 17-0 run to start the game. I honestly feel like if we just showed up and had enough poise in the beginning of that game just to maybe try to run some type of half-court offense, we would have won this game, no problem. It never would have even gone into overtime. But that's the thing is how do you go into a championship game and start off 17-0? They absolutely just got smacked in the mouth by North Texas because they were shooting above their head. And then Western, they were either completely shook by what was happening or they were so emotionally involved into it, they forgot the mental aspect of the game and just weren't able to do anything. There's so many things that are frustrating. And the thing is that we came back, Devin. We were down 17-0, went on this run, and then North Texas was over. They only had 14 points in the entire second half. That's how many points they scored in just the second half, and yet they still won this game. That is completely inexcusable to me. How do you let that happen to where you get a 6-point lead, let a team score 14 points and a half, and yet you can't even get the job done? There's a lot of blame going around. People are blaming Stansbury. People are blaming some of the seniors. I think it's all of them combined, and just a lot of bad luck. This team is just completely snake bit when it gets to the conference title game. But
every year,
this is something, yeah. And this is something I want to get your honest answer on because. I tweeted this out and it got a lot of attention and a lot of people agreed with it, is that if an all-star center, 3 former Mr. Kentucky basketballs, 4 seniors, star freshman and a 4-star sophomore guard that are phenomenal, you have a 3-point shooter that broke one of Steph Curry's records that's on the team as well. If you have all of those things, what else is Rick Stansbury going to need to get a conference title win? Honestly. Answer that question, Devin. What do you think?
Honestly, I don't know what as far as that goes, because you would think that would be enough.
Yeah, that should be enough. If you visit any other mid-major team in the entire country, I feel like this wouldn't be an issue. But yeah, I don't know if we're just cursed or what it is, but you get some of the most phenomenal players and athletic players we've ever had, but yet when you need them to win, when it matters the most, they just can't get it done. And I don't know if that's a mindset issue or what it is, but it's just so frustrating that this is what we've had to live with the past 4 seasons.
Yeah, well, do you think the point guard could have been an issue?
Well, I think that Rawls should have been playing over McKnight 100%. And if it wasn't for Rawls' threes that he had in the first half of that game, I think we would have been done at halftime because that was the only spark that the team really had until right at the end of the first half was his 3-point shooting. And McKnight, he's a freshman, obviously, and he's going to make mistakes, but he's had some really good moments. But that's the thing with freshmen. They're not going to be very consistent. I feel like next
Yeah.
season he's going to step up a lot and be one of the main core guys that we lean on. But at the same time, I mean, I still think that you should have let the experience play. Either play Kenny Cooper a little bit and see if he could do anything. And because he's having that senior and veteran guy with just being able to hold on to the ball more. And of course, like just turnovers in general. I mean, we still had a ton in that game, which doesn't help us at all. I mean, there's so many things that you could point out at this game that should have never happened, and yet it did. I don't know if it's just horrible luck. I don't know if Mitchell Robinson broke a mirror when he was on campus in his 7 years of bad luck for the program or what it was, but that's what it feels like sometimes.
So we've got like the goat curse is what I'm hearing.
It's something.
The
It's
curse
got
of
to
the
be
man.
some type of curse. It's something.
The Mitt Rob curse. That's what it is. Yeah, on paper, and it's a close game. And like you said, like I didn't even. It sounds bad, but I didn't even put 2 and 2 together. That they had 34 points at the end of the first, and at the end of regulation they had 48, which is like
They only
really
had 14
you
points.
scored 14 points in the second half. Like that's great on Western's part, but at the same point, literal point, I guess we should have had a lot more going into the first, because like you were saying, I didn't realize that there for almost 3 or 4 minutes, basically Western never scored a point. That was the 15-0 run you're talking about. And then at the 9:20 mark, all the way through to about 5:37 or so, Western did not score another point again. We got up to 14 and let North Texas go all the way to 29.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, they had too many runs there, and, Western has to capitalize on that. And I don't know. I don't know. It's a very disappointing thing to constantly be invited to the not the intentional big tournament. Trying to think of another acronym for it.
And you know what's even more depressing? If we wouldn't have lost to Old Dominion or Charlotte, or maybe both of those games, we probably would have gotten an NCAA tournament this year.
Yay!
Yeah.
I think that was going to happen, and that's the bad thing is we're Conference USA regular season champs, and we're going to the NIT. And
I mean, I'm still glad that these seniors and the team in general get another shot of playing, and having that postseason playing time is important, especially for Rawls and McKnight and all of these younger guys. But at the same time, I would be lying if I said that I was excited for tonight's game. I mean, it's just not the same.
So, if they lose tonight, would you feel the same way or no?
I mean, I'm completely apathetic at this point, because the more I care about the program, the more they let me down.
So you've got melancholy is what I'm hearing.
See, I got that full season March depression right now. It's full force right now, Devin. See, like I'm at the point that like if something were to happen to me and I die, I would want the Tops to lower me into my grave so they let me down one last time. That's where I'm at.
Oh my gosh, dude. Oh my god. But so, do you have your torch and pitchfork out for Stansbury?
Well, I mean, his seat should be a little warm, but I don't envision him going anywhere, not in the slightest. But I mean, The thing is, this is my thing, is that he is the best recruiter our program has ever had, and there's no denying that. But he's assembled all of this great talent, but there's just the way that this talent has played together just has not been very well. I mean, if you look at this team, there's 4 seniors on this team, and yet we were averaging like 14 turnovers a game. Like, that can't be completely their fault. Like, something's got to give. That these are senior guys, and yet they look like a bunch of freshmen standing out on the perimeter, just passing the ball for 30 seconds, trying to isolate somebody instead of actually having rotations and set up some type of game plan and offense. So, I mean, I feel like once Rick Stansbury ever figures out how to make one of his teams get past a 2-3 zone defense, we'll be really good. But the thing is that he's been here 5 years, and that's all another team has to do to beat us. It's just force us to shoot threes and keep whoever our star center is on the inside is outside of the paint. That's how you beat us, and that's exactly what North Texas did.
So here is my question, and I saw this the other day. I think we were on our group chat. Sorry, I've just gotten some alert from Mr. Hilltopper here. But anyway, just got something this other day. Now, does this change your opinion that McDonald and Harper, what was it? They each had 2 or 1, respectively.
It was like 1.5.
Yeah, basically they've each had 1.5 tournament appearances, etc. And Stans has none. It still doesn't change your mind.
Who would have ever thought that at this point, 5 years later after he was hired, that we still wouldn't have an NCAA tournament appearance? I mean, it's just been the worst luck. I mean, just Marshall first, then Old Dominion, then not having anything last season, and then, of course, Hollingsworth missing those free throws against North Texas, and then this year probably playing one of the worst games I've ever seen at this level. I mean, it's just... And when is it going to give is my thing. It's like, I mean, Rick Stansbury, what if he just keeps getting these talented guys and they just completely underperform? I mean, would you rather have – here's my question. Would you rather have a bunch of 2- and 3-star guys that play as a team and are bought into each other, or a bunch of 4- and 5-star guys that basically underachieve like what we've had the past few seasons? Because, I mean, that's literally the difference between these teams with Ray Harper and Rick Stansbury, is that Harper didn't have the most talented guys. And, I mean, he still had Justin Johnson, which was the biggest recruit that he ever landed. But, I mean, if you look at TJ Price and George Fant and all of them, incredible guys. And I don't know how to – there's nothing you can really put your pin on and say that if you change just one thing, that it would change things and make it better. I mean, it's just hard to point out at this point.
So, Ross, are you ready to
Ross is on.
change our –
Hey, guys. Long time no talk to.
Yeah, it's good to hear from you, buddy. So, are you ready to change our minds? Jared's been basically.
So let's summarize where we're at, and then.
So anyway, we'll recap here. Basically, we were talking about North Texas and the disappointing disaster that game was, and kind of what to expect. We're fixing to start talking about the NIT. As far as the NIT tournament's concerned, we talked a little bit about Western, or not Western, but the big dance and some of the news that's come out of it. So, changed my mind as far as putting away my torch and pitchfork with Rick Stansbury.
Okay. So, I mean, I'll be the first one to admit, like, probably in my 20-plus years as a Western fan, with the last 15 probably being a pretty hardcore Western fan, that was probably the hardest loss we've ever had. I mean, there's a couple that are close, but even when you compare, like, the Marshall or the ODU loss a couple years ago, like, I feel like given the stakes with the now 8-year tournament drought and the fact that we were up by 7, and, you know, that was by far the hardest loss, as a fan. You know, we've had others where missed opportunities, or like Gonzaga losing on a buzzer beater in the tournament. But, like, I feel like basically if one thing changes in that game, all this frustration and stuff that's bubbled to the top that had been around, it gets instantly erased. So, I'll preface it with that. Basically, we're in this situation because we have a good program with high expectations, and we haven't been able to get over the hump for various reasons. Just quick thoughts on the game. It's just kind of heartbreaking because, unfortunately, some players just didn't perform when we needed them to. I think, digging yourselves a 17-0 hole, and then, a player like Tavion Hollingsworth, who's going to finish in the top 5 all-time in school history, finishing with 6 points. I mean, you tell me that he scored 6 points and we should still win the game. That's kind of an indictment on some of that. And, like it or not, this group and Rick Stansbury has gotten us to a point where we're right on the precipice and the cusp. And while we might not think he can ever get over it, the fact that we're, consistently finishing first or second in the conference, which, Conference USA, if you believe it or not, is way tougher than the Sun Belt ever was when we were, making the tournament every few years. I mean, it's top to bottom. There's senior laden teams. There's teams. I did the math the other day where Conference USA, like the top team is consistently higher by, I think, 10 or 15 spots. It's like usually in the low 70s in the Ken Palm. Sun Belt was the 80s. And then like the average of the top 4 teams was like 50 points higher. So like, you could screw around in the Sun Belt and sneak into the tournament like Ray Harper did a couple times. It's a lot harder to do that when you run into some of these senior laden teams. And that's no excuse because we had a senior laden team. But, the reason, I think we've gotten accustomed and used to making the NCAA tournament is because when you were in the OVC and the Sun Belt was a lot easier. And the problem is we've got the same expectations, one bid league against harder competition. So I'm of the belief, okay, you look at all these teams that have won, like ODU had their chance at the top. Marshall had their stay at the top. North Texas just had their stay at the top. All those other programs have kind of seceded and come back. We've stayed consistently at the top. Stansbury is like accumulating talent. He's got us right on the door. I'm a firm believer that you put yourself in position to do it, once you're going to break through eventually, whether it was, Gonzaga finally making the Final Four, Virginia finally making the Final Four, Kermit Davis in the Sun Belt, whatever. He was a middling coach for a while, not anywhere near the thing is. And then when he finally broke the door down, he made, 3 out of the last 4 NCAA tournaments. Darren Horn at Western, he struggled to finally get over the hump. And when he did, we went on a Sweet 16 run. I think, my thing with Stansbury and starting over, I think he's a little bit of a victim of his own success, and his style and personality doesn't really lend itself. It lends itself to the detractors that, I think, with him, you've got to kind of appreciate that he's got a system. We're going to win we're going to win the rebound battle. We're going to defend the twos. If you're going to beat Western, you got to get them to force turnovers, make us shoot, and make sure we don't get to the free throw line. And, most of the time that pans out, but when it doesn't work, we have games like this. And, on Saturday, the worst part was like literally 5 or 6 things. If one of those things switches, we win that game. McKnight hit that free throw. Carson Williams making 1 of 2 layups. I mean, there was just so many freaky things where I'm just not ready to, throw out, a coach that's basically made Western a consistent top 2 team in the conference just because he can't get over the hump in really difficult circumstances. I think this year, we finally, we had the Charlotte loss, but there was really no inexcusable losses besides that. I mean, ODU and Louisiana Tech weren't, perfect loss, aren't games you should lose, but they're excusable. Those are top 150 teams, top 100 teams where, if you even compare like in power conferences, like every once in a while, an Alabama will lose to a Vanderbilt or a South Carolina or whatever, because, it's hard to just go through the whole thing perfect. So, my whole thing is Stansbury puts us in the best position to win long-term. And, recruiting, it hasn't fallen off at all. I mean, we've got the number 1 JUCO center. We got a top 50 guard. My hope is that you stay the course. In 2 years, if we're in this situation, I might be where Jared is or whoever who wants to dump him. But you stay the course and say, okay, well, the law of averages is going to work out because we're in a stacked talent, and maybe Zion Harmon or Jamion Sharp, whoever has the consistency that we lacked at some of these guys. And that's the only critique I have. Like somebody like Collinsworth, as great as he was, he didn't have that consistency from a game in, game out like a Javion Hamlin had, or like a Elmore or a Stith or whoever. And, I hope we can develop that player, moving forward.
So you are happy with the 5-star guys who are not performing to their peak performance is basically
I'm not happy with it, but I know that whoever we brought in to replace him, it would be a 3-star guy that doesn't give us the chance to just, to win at a high level like that.
Okay.
Like it or not, like I also did the numbers, like Stansbury's wins, over time, like the regular season matters. It's not always, basically if we don't choke that game against Old Dominion and we get to play those North Texas games like they were originally scheduled, we were in the at-large conversation until the end of the season. That never happened under Harper and barely happened under Bourne. So, I mean, I just don't think you should throw out the baby with the bathwater, no matter how frustrating it gets.
Well, can I ask you this question? Like, what else do you think Rick Stansbury needs to succeed at Western? Because if you look at his roster, I mean, I feel like he has the high-level players that he needs. He has the 4 seniors he needs. Like, what do you think it'll take for us to finally get over the hump?
I mean, I think it's just going to take a little bit of luck. I think it's going to take probably a little bit of change in personnel. I mean, you trade a Hollingsworth, who was a 3-star, for Zion Harmon, who's a 4-star. Maybe that extra little talent will bring that much more consistency there. I think finding a point guard that can, learn how to not turn the damn ball over. I think valuing the ball. I mean, that's, there's definitely tons of stuff to criticize, but like, I'm not under the impression that, I'm just more in the careful what you wish for camp, where if you think that, who we're gonna get, we'd get some assistant or an Archie Miller type or somebody like this that would, you can't really guarantee that they would be better, and you're really risking, like, you're basically on the cusp every year, all 4 years in a row. He never got the tournament chance last year. He was a Hollingsworth free throw away. He was a Davion McKnight free throw away. It's like, I just can't completely blame him, even though there's tons of little micromanaged things that you can nitpick and criticize, and it's warranted.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I think there are critiques and there are arguments that could be made as far as, I mean, not separation or firing stands or whatever, but I think I do agree that the competition is a lot more is fiercer in Conference USA than maybe what Western's used to. With, like you said, the OVC or the Sun Belt, and we're getting higher caliber guys. We're doing a lot better as far as recruiting. I do agree with that.
I mean, he has a lot. I mean, think of all the wins we have, and I know it doesn't matter. I know the Jake Keiths of the world or the Matt McKays, like those men doesn't matter at all because we didn't make the tournament. But you could also have a coach that doesn't have those wins and also doesn't make the tournament. I mean, we're right there every year where we can, if we get in the big dance, we can make noise. This year we would have made noise. We would have been that 12 or 13 seed that John Rothstein says that nobody wants to play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My thing is, so I think he is really good at the recruiting, but I do not think, and from what I've heard conflicting reports, that I don't think he's a very good X's and O's guy.
Well, no, I don't.
And
I would.
What I've heard from some
that.
people though is that, well, from what I've heard from some people is that he does draw up plays and throws the guys out there to do it, and they just disregard or do whatever. And it's like, I mean, I don't know. I feel like there should be something done about that. I mean, they're not children by any means, and I mean, I'm sure there's situations where things have to change, but at the same point,
can I give you an analogy real quick, Devin?
Sure.
This is something I thought about, and this past Sunday at church reminded me of this. And it was the youth Sunday, like all of the youth were leading worship, and at least 6 or 7 of the kids on stage playing are people that I've taught before. That I either taught them drums or bass or guitar or something like that, and I've worked with them. And let me tell you, you can teach a kid how to do something. You can tell them to go practice. You can do everything that you can, but sometimes when they get on that stage and they start playing, it just goes the complete opposite direction that you may have completely ever tried to teach them. And that was a good reminder for me right after that loss. Is like, I mean, and this is something that we've heard from within the team as well, is that there's sometimes instances where Stansbury would draw up something for like on offense and tell his players to go execute it, and just it looks completely horrible and it's not even close to what he tried to draw up. I mean, that's not his fault. I mean, sometimes that's basketball IQ and just being comfortable enough to trust your teammates and just try to draw out what's been put before you. But I mean, that reminded me this Sunday is that you can try to, even though you spend all this time working with someone and teaching them everything, and then just trying to give them that extra encouragement and just try to get them going on the right path, it'll just completely go to left field in any given second.
That's really hilarious to me. I'm sorry that Jared is getting clarifications in church about his thoughts on Rick Stansbury.
I mean, it's perspective. It is just a game. I mean, you are dealing with young people, but like that's what I think. Like, okay, we've kind of mixing and matching. Some of these guys we've ridden with for a while, and for some whatever reason we couldn't get over the top. Let's hope somebody like Rawls, who's really come on strong. If we can keep him in the fold, like that kid. He's got what Hollingsworth lacked, shooting, and I think there's pieces there. We've got the talent, he's going to find, like, there was that guy, I sent you guys the thing on the Discord today, like, he's recruiting a 6'7" guard that scored 21 and 10. If we get that kind of guy, like, I just think, like, we're sacrificing upside if we decide to go a different direction when we're still achieving at a really, really, really high level for what we are. And let's not forget that Western's budget, Stansbury makes $650,000 plus a cut of attendance. Like, we're not paying him $1.5 million for him to come in second place. We are still trying to get it done on a budget.
So he gets a cut of attendance too?
Yeah, like
that's wild.
Well, I think it was a lot of money this year.
I was going to say, he doesn't get much this year, but yeah.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, why was attendance at all-time high under him? Because they were achieving at big levels, having big wins, stuff like that.
Well, I mean, and that's another thing too. That's a very good incentive for coaches. I mean, I didn't realize that until you just said that. But and I don't want to be this person, but let's look at our neighbors. That thing you sent earlier about Cincinnati, is that not wild or what?
That's insane.
That Cincinnati has 4 scholarship players, and then basically everybody else is in the transfer portal.
And then
that guy's guy's on his second year of the thing. So of his, he just finished his second season.
Yeah, but still, man, that's wild. You basically ran everybody else. You ran everybody off. You didn't want, and then, I mean, I know that's part of it, but still, it's like, wow.
I don't think he probably ran them off. I think they probably said, "Screw this, I'm out."
Yeah, you're probably right.
I mean, Cincinnati wasn't horrible, but they did underperform a lot to what their standard is in the American.
That's my whole point. It's like you got to be careful what you wish for. I totally agree. If we're having this conversation in 2 years and we still can't get over the hump and we slip to 3rd or 4th place in the league, then yes, all means. But I don't think coming off our best season under him, or arguably, it's basically splitting hairs between this and 2018. You can really say, "Gosh, we've got to get rid of him." It just doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so you're satisfied with the NIT this year, though?
I'm not satisfied, no. But I also you can have it 2 ways. You can be mad and all that, but also think that the program's in its best shape that it's been in really since. I would say probably since McDonald took over for Horn.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's the thing too, Devin. Even though I'm not I wouldn't say that I'm thrilled about us playing in the NIT. I mean, I do look on the bright side that this is going to be great for like McKnight and Rawls and a lot of these younger players to be able to get this playing time in the postseason. I think that's going to be great for their development to hopefully make them even better for next season.
And I agree to go to the NIT is going to help these young guys. But at the same point, like, we won the regular season conference title. You think that we could have at least finished out. and been going to the big dance. That's just a frustrating thing for me. That's
We
Oh,
are
it's
cursed.
yeah, we're-
cursed.
I mean, like I said, like literally one little thing. Like we could count 5 or 6 things in that last 5 minutes of the game. If that changes, we're previewing our first round match against Tennessee or something.
Yep. Completely agree. Now the game is about to start here in about 5 minutes or so.
It starts
About
in
an hour from now.
Yeah, hour and 5.
Gosh, all right. I hate time change. Sorry. But
David
anyway,
hasn't changed his clocks yet.
yes, I have changed my clocks, but I don't do Eastern and Central. Like it always screws me up. So like I'll be in like short aside here. When I was getting married, Jake was in my wedding party, so he had to drive from Bowling Green at the time to around E-Town, which is about an hour drive. He's like, "What time are you all going to start?" And I was like, "Well, 6 o'clock our time, so that would be like 7 o'clock your time," which is actually no. I told him 5 o'clock, and it threw him off completely, and we screwed up the time and everything. So he ends up going like 90 miles an hour to try and get there for the rehearsal dinner and all that, or for the rehearsal. Yeah. So long story short, I don't do time change, and I don't do Central Eastern time very well at all.
It's kind of hard considering where you live.
I know, right? You know, you think I would be great at it, but I'm not at all. Being Eastern time, like even when I tell people Central time stuff, I'm like, okay, we're gonna be doing it at this time, and I'm like, no, that would be like Nova Scotia time. Okay, let me back up. No, we got to do it. But anyway, speaking of horrible time, Ross, has your kids gotten used to daylight savings?
I just put them to bed. Not yet.
Good job. If
Not
they're
yet.
asleep, good job is all I got to say.
Well, look, Monday, Wednesday, Friday is school day, so they're a little bit more worn out. Tuesday, Thursdays are a little bit rougher.
Dude, I'm telling you, I know listeners probably really don't care at this point. But anyway, my daughter is having the worst time with sleeping at this point. Like, it's like 10, 11 o'clock trying to get her to sleep, and it's like, oh my gosh. Last night I was just done. It was like 10, 10:30, and I'm like, I'm done. Sweetheart, you can try and put her to sleep. I'm done.
How old is she now?
She's a year.
Dang, that's rough. Usually, yeah, I think, let's see, I've got about a couple of months shy of a 2-year-old, and when you just getting them on that normal sleep schedule, once you get over that hump, it makes life way easier.
Bro, we were golden until daylight savings time, and that's just completely thrown us off again. And it's just like, I don't care. Just let's get you to sleep, and then we'll just deal with it then. But anyway, so I mean, we are in the NIT, so that's a positive. We can take some positivity from that.
Here's a quick 2 cents on NIT.
Okay,
It sucks. It's like kissing your sister. I think when we went a couple years ago, it was a lot bigger deal than it is now because we hadn't even been in any postseason. But you know, the one thing I would frame when you're in a one big league, you know, making the NIT is still an accomplishment. It means you're like right on that cusp of you were for at-large consideration. So it means that you had a good season. Belmont didn't get in, Marshall, Louisiana Tech, other teams in our league didn't get in, and it's because they didn't have as good a seasons as us. So for perspective-wise, you still got to think, okay, it's not where we want to be, but it could be a lot worse. Like Harper never had a regular season that would have qualified for the NIT. McDonald, besides making the NCAA tournament that one year, never qualified for the NIT. Horn did a couple times, but it means that you've had a good, not great season, and it's not great when your aims for the NCAA tournament, but it doesn't mean that it's a dumpster fire where like it is like at UK or somewhere else.
So if we swept Charlotte and let's say ODU, do you think we're in the dance? Did we make the big dance if we won those 2 games?
Yes, because if you look at Drake, their wins don't stack up. They just didn't have nearly as many bad losses. I think the other problem with Stans, we've got to find a way to work the stupid computer numbers. I think that really hindered us too, where like you've got to get that net and the Ken Palm into the 50s at least if you want to have a shot. And I guess getting rid of some of those losses, but we did a better job towards the end of the season blowing out inferior teams, but you can't afford to only beat Gardner-Webb by 2. You can't, you've got to just game the system, sportsmanship be damned, and realize, okay, our margin for error sportsmanship just takes a backseat. We've got to win by a lot.
Yeah, and that's
that
my thing too.
That's really frustrating. I mean, we never could blow anybody out except for FIU for the most part, and that second game was still closer than it probably should have been. Yeah. But I mean, that's the whole thing. Next year too is that at least we won't be playing the same team back to back anymore.
Oh, I hated those. I mean,
yeah, that was another thing too that really was not in our favor at all.
Yeah, completely agree. So we're playing St. Mary's. What do you, Jared? I'll go to you first. What do you think of St. Mary's? They're 14-9, 4-6 conference play.
They're definitely not as strong as they have been historically. Like when we played them in Diddle Arena a few years ago, that was definitely a lot stronger of a team than what we're playing tonight. So, I mean, honestly, I feel like we shouldn't have too many issues with them. But, I mean, the thing with those St. Mary's teams is that they're really good at three-point shooting, and our three-point defense is still horrible. So, I mean, that's something that they'll have to look out for. I mean, we are more familiar with Frisco and that whole layout. So, I mean, if we do
it's not in the same arena.
Oh, really? I mean, that's interesting. Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, I still think we should beat them regardless, just for the fact that it's not as strong as the St. Mary's team as we've traditionally seen. I mean, you kind of use Gonzaga as the judgment stick for them to see where they measure up at, and they didn't really do much of anything. So I don't think we should have any issues with them.
I'm not cutting you off, but Mr. Hilltopper is reporting that someone is in a boot and might not play tonight.
Why don't you just say who it is? Because
Yeah, come on, Mr. Hilltopper. We need names.
Yeah, it'll be out. You don't have to tell who your source is.
He's probably there.
He's probably there. That's the thing. He's probably sitting there next to him. So anyway, Ross, what do you think our chances are tonight?
I mean, we're a 2-point dog. I think it's computer numbers mainly. Looking at St. Mary's schedule, they don't really have any wins or anything that really just jumps out and impresses you. I think it depends on which Western team comes out tonight. Not having Carson Williams, could be a blessing in disguise or could be a curse. He always played with his heart and soul, even if he wasn't really athletic enough. So he could be missing him. Who knows if if they're going to be cautious with him because obviously his pro career is coming up and it's the NIT. But it just depends really which team comes out to play. If Western's kind of sulking and you can tell they're disappointed by not being in the big dance, then we could easily lose. If not, then I think, if we're ready to play, I think we win. So
I do not believe Mr. Hilltopper is there. I might be wrong. He's just telling us that unfortunately he landed Sunday night as they announced it from Frisco. So I'm guessing that he didn't see the NIT part. So he's in Louisville, yeah. And apparently the person in the boot is not a starter. So he must have tripped over his tray at the hotel or something. I don't know. Yeah, but anyway, they're calling it a 2-point. Yeah. 2-point, but Western's got the 54% matchup predictor there. And I agree with what you're saying as far as, their schedule. I think they've played some tough teams. They played Gonzaga.
And BYU, yeah.
They played Gonzaga and lost by 23 points. They beat LMU. Yeah, yada, yada, yada. You can look that up on ESPN. But check that game out. Obviously, you probably will if you're listening to this and you're not listening live. If you'd like to listen live, you can go to Podbean and listen to our shows on Wednesday night. That is 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central. I'm pretty good at that time.
Go. Good job.
And
it's like you've been doing this for a couple years now.
Yeah, I know, right? It's almost like I do it in my sleep sometimes. The game's going to be at 9:00 tonight. We'll be talking about the game next week, and hopefully we'll be talking about a few more games that Western's going to be playing. When does the next round of games play? Just in case.
So if they win, it'll be next Thursday, so a week from tomorrow.
Okay.
And
So
they'll
next
play
Thursday.
either Kermit Davis or they'll play Louisiana Tech again.
So they got La Tech. Oh my gosh.
Or Ole Miss, which is I would love to have that matchup. That would bring some buzz.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
That'd be fun. That would be definitely awesome. But check that out. And let's see. Western's as far as everything's concerned, follow us on the Towel Rack. I got articles and everything out every week. And next week we'll be talking basketball. We'll be talking about the St. Mary's game. And we'll be talking about the upcoming game, or we'll be talking about the off season.
Spring practice.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, as always, guys, go Tops.
Go Tops.
Go Tops.
I was honestly waiting for Ross's reaction to my new button.
I like it.
All right.
If you
Hey,
didn't
guys.
use it every week, maybe I'd like it.